It is January 17th, 2018. I'm Glenn Rubenstein, and this is the Wrestling Inc. podcast. I'm joined, as always, by Mr. Raj Giri, and Chris Featherstone is joining us today as well. We're going to be talking about SmackDown Live for January 16th, 2018. Also going to be talking about the first episode of the Mixed Match Challenge, Roman Reigns being in the news, and what the plans are for the U.S. title change, Impact stars to WWE, and more. Chris, how's it going, man?
It's going well. It's a busy month, a kickoff to a busy season. January to April is where it's at in the pro wrestling world.
Yeah, we're literally on the road to WrestleMania. Raj, how's it going, man? What's the breaking news this morning?
Good God, it's been an insane week already. I mean, we've had the Impact tapings, all these stars finishing up at Impact. This Roman Reigns whole deal that we'll be talking about. These new signings at the WWE Performance Center: Ricochet, War Machine, Candice LeRae, all signed by WWE. Jey Uso was arrested earlier this week. The Mixed Match Challenge premiered. The United States Championship changed hands, despite being announced. That match being announced for the Royal Rumble. So it's been just insane.
Yeah, I'll say, man, kind of crazy. So where do we want to start this morning, Raj? Should we talk about some of the breaking news before we dive into SmackDown?
Sure.
I think Roman Reigns.
Decide.
Yeah, I think Roman Reigns, because a lot of people that are listening to this and that woke up this morning are like, why is Roman Reigns trending? Why is Roman Reigns in the news so much? What's going on? So what's the story that really started to come out yesterday afternoon, last night, and has really snowballed?
Yeah, so I actually received this video that, with the claims in it a few days ago, and I've been kind of waiting to hear back from WWE. We contacted them about it, because let's face it, this is a criminal that's, making these claims. So we were hoping to hear back from WWE. They never sent back word, but basically, Roman Reigns was named as a client in this steroid distribution ring. And so this would have been, so to put a little context, this would have been before February of last year. So Richard Rodriguez, who was the former owner of the Iron Addicts gym in Miami, he ran a company called, let me pull up the company, Wellness Fitness Nutrition LLC. And so what they were accused of doing is basically importing goods from China, then manufacturing illegal steroids in Arizona before distributing them out of Miami. The DEA was investigating them, and they raided his gym and arrested him in February of 2017. So anything involving Reigns would have been before that. Now, Reigns was suspended for a wellness violation in June of 2016, so 8 months before. But at the time, it was believed that the suspension was due to Adderall. So long story short, whatever Rodriguez is talking about would have been at least over a year ago. Again, he is a criminal that's implicated in this. So it doesn't mean he's lying, but we got to take everything into context.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, Chris, what do you think the implication of this will be?
Well, if it's a criminal act, and of course, if it gets prosecuted, I mean, that's grounds for immediate termination for Reigns. I think at this point, it's just accusation until there's proof, and so just let it ride out and see what happens. I think it's very clear, that he won't have a WWE future if it goes as far as prosecution.
Real quick, he wouldn't be prosecuted in this. He's a client, right. So they go after the distributors in that. So Reigns would not be prosecuted. This is similar to the Signature Pharmacy controversy that happened like 10 years ago.
And I would think that was 2007. And while I was thinking about Randy Orton and how, I think him acquiring, steroids or whatever, it is, I think the reason why I was saying prosecuted, I mean, that's somehow if they find something more and Roman Reigns dealing with it, that's the extreme of it. But as far as what I think is going to happen, I don't think that there's going to be anything different or anything new as far as WWE kind of hitting him for this particular thing. Because I think if you remember with Orton, Orton was in the Signature Pharmacy saga as well, but I think they kind of, if I'm not mistaken, they kind of merged that one with another violation because it would have been his third one, and I think he would have been released from that. So I think they'll probably do the same thing with Reigns with this one as well.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we got to make sure there was never any claim that he was more than just a client. So, so in that case, the worst would be another wellness violation, against him. But assuming the previous one wasn't related to this, if it is true. So that Signature Pharmacy scandal in 2007, that involved a bunch of people: Charlie Haas, Edge, Batista, Booker T, Shane Helms, John Morrison, William Regal, Mr. Kennedy, Umaga, Funaki, Chavo Guerrero. Booker T quit over it, but no one lost their jobs over it. They all received suspensions. Batista tried to, was thinking about suing the ESPN report over it. Yeah, I mean, a bunch of people were suspended over it. So that's really the worst case of what we'd be looking at.
Do you guys think it's as big of a deal these days as it was, when we were growing up and the first steroid scandal hit the WWE? I mean, I feel like professional sports, professional wrestling, superhero movies, for God's sakes, and you have these guys that undergo these radical body transformations. I mean, does it seem more par for the course to take some sort of supplements that might be in a gray area than it did when let's say the Olympics and bodybuilding?
No, I don't think so. I mean, the rules are the rules, what I mean? And if someone's well aware of, if you're not supposed to take something, if you do, you're violating, the rules. So you should be reprimanded for it. I think that's pretty clear cut for me.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think it's as big a deal now because I think people are a lot more forgiving now. If you remember in the 80s when it should have been, as a kid, you assume that they were just working out and getting these superhuman physiques. And when the Hulk Hogan stuff broke out, he was just lying about it. Mm-hmm. All these guys. And a lot of people were surprised, especially people who were kids in that era, were surprised and really disappointed. And it did a lot of damage. Now, when someone gets busted for it, we've talked about, different people. I mean, how many wrestlers have had wellness violations over the years? And I don't think that has overall affected their career if it was heading a certain way. And, usually it's, you look at, Randy Orton's had a couple, Jeff Hardy, and it really did nothing. So I think people are a lot more forgiving about it. But, the problem with someone like a Roman Reigns is he's so polarizing with the fans that they're quick to really jump on him on something like this. Whereas I don't think they would if it was,
Daniel Bryan.
Yeah, right. yeah, I was trying to come up with something realistic.
The fans would be like, Daniel needs that because of the head injuries he suffered.
Because he's a B+ player. That's what B+ players do.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, man. Yeah, the fans are quick to defend.
I think it still leaves a stigma, though, in the WWE, especially since they're a publicly traded organization as opposed to not, in the early 90s. As we saw, I mean, kind of putting two and two together, we don't know this for a fact, but when Triple H's trainer ratted him out recently, right? And, he was kind of chiseled for a little bit. And then you saw him in those live events, in Chile and things like that. He's kind of let it go after that was publicized. So, I think it's interesting.
Well, there's Vince McMahon has admitted in the past that he doesn't get tested, right? like not. It's only the full-time people. Brock Lesnar had this steroid scandal, you know, after his UFC fight, after being caught with the masking agent, failed 2 drug tests. Nothing happened, but you know, they said he wasn't a full-time employee, so those rules don't apply to him. You know, Billy Gunn, he was the other end where he's just a teacher, and it came out that he was on, I believe it was TRT or something, but he had elevated testosterone, got suspended over a bodybuilding competition that WWE didn't even know about till months later. But once they found out, they fired him. So anyway, with talent, usually the worst that would happen is another strike.
Yeah.
That's the worst. That's assuming if it's true and the first one had nothing to do with it. But, you know, again, we're talking over a year ago, at least.
Well, so let's talk about the other legal matter that's going on. Was it Jimmy Uso?
Jey Uso.
Jey Uso. So not the one married to Naomi.
Right. So Jimmy Uso's had 2 DUIs in the past.
Ooh.
But, you know, nothing really, you know, happened with it. Jey Uso, yeah, he was arrested this past Sunday. The WWE had a live event in Hidalgo. And, yeah, I mean, it's just kind of one of those things. I'm not sure if he was driving to another town, because otherwise just get an Uber.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so WWE, they sent us a statement on Jey Uso's arrest. They wrote, Jonathan Fatu, his real name, is responsible for his own personal actions. We are investigating the matter and awaiting information from local law enforcement officials. And, you know, like I mentioned, Jimmy Uso's had a couple. Jack Swagger was caught with marijuana. So usually these, and this is Jey Uso, as far as we can tell, this is his first. So I wouldn't expect anything much. I
did notice last night in SmackDown, I didn't see that Universal Studios ad with the Usos last night.
Well, they were supposed to defend the tag titles last night, right?
Were they? I thought it was set for the Rumble.
The 2 out of 3 is
2 out of 3.
Yeah, Gable and Benjamin at the Rumble.
Right. Yeah. Weren't they? I thought they were booked for a match last night, but I guess I'm wrong. But yeah, so I mean, they appeared on SmackDown last night. I have, you know, this could be one of those things that just kind of fades away.
I agree.
So weird. I agree. All of this so weird. I mean, it's sports entertainment. I mean, the original steroid scandal, right? That's where sports entertainment became a term, talking about these are not athletes in legitimate competition. These are entertainers.
Well, that happened before the steroid contract. That happened due to taxation and commissions for live events. Wanting to treat it like a sport, it was going to be way more expensive, so they switched it to sports entertainment. So,
but the point is, if they're not legitimately competing and it's all, you know, physical, superficial, like to me, that's less of an issue. I mean, the DWI I think is a more character issue, as opposed to, you know, doing something to enhance their physique, because this is a superficial business and we want guys with a certain look.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, people make mistakes. And,
absolutely.
You know, I wouldn't say it's a character issue with the DUI. You know, a lot of people have had them, a lot of wrestlers. It's just one of those things where, what's that?
I know a lot of people in general, and yes, there's a difference. There are different levels. I mean, you could say that there are times when, I mean, like, everybody has had a drink or two before and then done some math in their head about how long it's been and are they okay to drive? And yes, their function was fine, but on a test, you know, who knows what the result would have been. I think everyone of legal age has been in that situation at some point in their life. There's a difference between that and like, oh, you should not be behind the wheel of a car. But, you know, that to me, that speaks more to someone as opposed to that they're just dealing with the pressures of keeping up in such a competitive environment.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, you know, a DUI, it varies. You know, like if they were just, you know, if it's a what's the one in Colorado they call it DWI, where you're
well, because in Colorado it could be
no. Well, this is not to do with that, but a DWI is when you haven't quite hit the threshold of a DUI. So it's like you might have been a drink or a half a drink, barely just over that limit. And then there's a DUI.
While intoxicated versus under the influence.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So, you know, one is obviously worse than the other, and there are varying degrees, but Yeah, I mean, it's not good. You know, I think a lot of times the general public will they'll be more judging on a steroid scandal than a DUI because DUIs are so common. But it is true with the DUI, you are putting others at risk, whereas with the other stuff, you're not technically. The problem is when you are doing things like and I'm not saying anyone is or isn't or whatever, but if you are doing things like steroids and the company is giving you a push, that gets other people thinking that that's how they can get a push. And then that leads to way more dangerous, physical effects down the road, as we've seen with a lot of these 80s wrestlers with heart issues and things like that. So anyway, that's more of a, more convoluted effect as opposed to a DUI where there's really a direct effect.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, let's dive into talking about SmackDown, and then we'll hit the news about the Impact stars to the WWE afterwards. Last night, SmackDown opened with a match. WWE United States title tournament, Xavier Woods versus Jinder Mahal. Xavier out there accompanied by the New Day. They had their match. Singh brothers interfered, shocking, until they were ejected. The New Day was ejected, but Jinder got the pin and went on to the final. Now, since we did have that final match last night, we could talk about that. We don't need to talk about the booking of this, but Chris, what did you think of the match itself to open the show last night?
Slow, lethargic. I just think the layout of the match was not very good at all. You usually, I mean, a lot of times you have the heel beat up the babyface, and the babyface come back and either win or lose by some nefarious means. But just with this match, it was like Jinder dominated most of it, and then there would be kind of blips where Xavier would try to get an advantage, and it just seems like the cues of the match were just off. It's like the match was kind of put in Jinder's hands, and although he looks the part, he looks like a star, he's got a lot of work to do in the ring. So kind of leaning on Jinder to kind of make the match work it looked obvious, and it just wasn't a good idea.
I felt like there's, I'm saying this almost every show now, but this match should not have went 2 segments. And really, with the promo, it was 3. The first half hour of the show was basically this match between the promo and the match itself. Mm-hmm. And when the finish was pretty obvious, it should have been a 1-segment match, short, sweet. Jinder get the win. You don't really need to have him dominate for 15 minutes and then pick up the win. So I think that's just a problem with WWE right now, is just these long matches when they don't need it. It just kind of takes you out of the show. And when this show started, the New Day promo, I thought it fell flat, even though I'm sure it looked good on paper, but it just, I don't know. It just didn't have the effect that I thought it would. But when you had Jinder in there with Xavier at first, I was like, this feels fresh. It's not the usual mix that they've been doing on SmackDown lately. But then it just dragged and dragged and dragged. And, at half an hour into the show, it's, this whole thing is finally over.
Yeah.
Just way too long.
Yeah. Well, this was really an episode about the U.S. title last night. We went from having the U.S. title be something that would be defended at the Rumble, or that would be decided at the Rumble, rather, to something that would be decided next week, to something that was decided last night. Speculation online that Dolph Ziggler is coming back and will challenge the winner of that match to set up a match between them at the Rumble that could very well happen next week.
How stupid is that, if that's the case, though?
Oh, absolutely, because Dolph Ziggler versus Bobby Roode the first time was kind of a...
Well, not just that. Why would he, if he's coming back to win the U.S. title, why did he just vacate it?
Well, he technically never vacated it. He just left it in the ring and walked away. I mean, guys.
Yeah, but why? Unless they have a storyline reason for why he came back, why he decided to, leave the belt in the ring and then come back to be in the same exact spot. It just makes no sense. And, really with CM Punk, they kind of did the same thing where he left. He said he wanted out, with that whole storyline when he came back. They gave no storyline explanation for why he was back. He just showed up and, and he was facing Cena at SummerSlam.
Yeah. So
I think it's obvious, though. I think it's obvious that this is where they're going, because just for them to call an audible, have the Royal Rumble be the culmination of the tournament, and then they kept saying next week, just to kind of subliminally put that in their minds, like they never said the Royal Rumble would be the finals. And then Daniel Bryan kind of calling another audible and saying tonight. I think it's obvious that Dolph Ziggler will be involved between now and the Rumble. Probably come back next week, say, I never lost, which would probably lead to a match at the Rumble between the two.
I agree with you, and I see them doing that, but it just, from a storyline purpose, it makes no sense.
But this means Dolph Ziggler not in the Royal Rumble, most likely, which, Raj, there goes the prediction.
There goes my dark horse theory.
What are the odds at that for right now? Isn't it something like absurd? Did an update? Isn't like Daniel Bryan like a 10-1, like has some better odds than anyone? I mean, it's just because we're in silly season.
Ziggler's up there right now too. His jumped up.
Yeah, but having Daniel Bryan there just goes to show no one has any idea where this is going.
Yeah, right. So, I mean, Daniel Bryan, I don't think Daniel Bryan is leading right now. He's jumped up a lot. Someone brought that up in the
Nakamura's up now, isn't he?
Yeah, he was the top. Hold on, let me take a look at the latest odds. Hold on 1 second.
Yeah,
I think Daniel Bryan was beating Braun Strowman, if I'm not mistaken.
I will say that would be the biggest surprise entrant in the Royal Rumble, probably short of Hulk Hogan. Daniel Bryan would be the biggest surprise entrant in the Royal Rumble they could have.
Could you imagine if that was the case? The place would go nuts. And in Philly, of all places, where the fans turned Roman heel because Daniel Bryan, how he was booked in the Rumble match that year, and to return and have him win, that would be that'd be crazy.
Didn't he quietly get eliminated by Bray Wyatt that year?
So Ziggler's actually the number 3 favorite right now. So someone's listening to this podcast that's making these odds. But right now it's Shinsuke Nakamura has the best odds, followed by Roman Reigns. And then Dolph Ziggler and John Cena are tied. Then it's Braun Strowman. Then Daniel Bryan. And then we got Finn Balor. And then rounding out is Baron Corbin and Randy Orton.
See, I restrained myself from tweeting about this last night for some weird reason that, unbeknownst to me, Fandango follows me on Twitter. And so I didn't want to bash about how, Raj, you're right, they're burying Rusev. Like, Rusev is now in the Fashion Files thing. And I was like, no, that's a little mean. Because I like the Fashion Files. But yeah, you're right. They've completely derailed Rusev to now. I don't even think I think the audience is going to, just lose interest because of how they're treating him.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I almost wonder if he'd be treated better if the fans weren't chanting Rusev Day and were getting on his side, if they'd be booking them better. Yeah. It's almost like they want to get that away. They want to take away that babyface momentum he's got and then, kind of start using him again.
Yeah, they're facing the Ascension next week. Unless this is all just placeholder, and maybe they'll surprise us.
Surprise us with what?
With Rusev winning the Rumble.
Ah, come on.
No. That's not happening. Speaking of Rumble, real quick, Daniel Bryan, didn't he get quietly eliminated by Bray Wyatt that year in Philly?
Yeah, he came in for a cup of coffee and was thrown out, and that was after he had just come back from an injury. So it was his big return. He was treated like a job guy, really. So, Glenn, to your point. So let's take a look at past Rumble winners. You had Randy Orton, Triple H, Roman Reigns, Batista before that, John Cena, Sheamus, Alberto Del Rio, Edge, Randy Orton, John Cena, The Undertaker. So basically what I'm saying is they don't throw someone.
Sheamus. It's not
even Sheamus at that point was getting a big push.
That's true.
He had been WWE champion by that point. So they don't just put guys that are losing on TV to win the Rumble. Now, I did pick Ziggler.
That's true. Ziggler would probably be the biggest step down.
Yeah, I mean, from a personal standpoint, I'd love it if Rusev won, but if you were going to do that, you would have to have given him more over the past month than you have, and I think it would be stupid now to have Rusev win just because of how cold he is, how cold they're treating him.
Although I think the push of Jinder this year has shown that they will get that wild hair, that idea of oh, hey, let's just completely swerve everybody's expectation. It's like I think Kurt Hawkins is going to pick up a win at some point in a high profile thing just because they've made such a big deal out of it. I see, again, if they're trying to make moments, I see them doing things that are not by the book.
I see them doing that for B shows and things like that.
Yeah.
Remember, Jinder's push was a economic decision
Which
to expand in India.
And out the way that they thought it was
did not,
going to.
because where they have Jinder right now is what they should have done is get him in, these lower, mid card, get some wins, try to get some steam, and then move him up. But they didn't, and by just jumping him, people didn't buy into it, and it hurt him the whole time. And I don't know, it's one of those things. Indian fans to think that they're just going to cheer him just because he starts winning, just because he's champion all of a sudden. You got to get more than that. And Khali,
that does work with some cultures. I'm just saying, if there was a Jewish champ, me and my people would be on board with him completely.
But wouldn't that make it
really? Hold on. Let me ask you this. Yeah. So if who's the 205 Live guy? What was his name?
Drew Gulak.
Frederick Enzo.
Yeah, Drew Gulak. If they had him win the Universal Championship, you're telling me that he would become the biggest star and this huge draw over in Israel?
Well, actually, maybe. There is sort of but it depends on the character. And I think the problem was that
that's the thing. It has to be you have to believe it.
If it came out and it was like a hokey Jewish stereotype from the 40s, actually, if it was Sami Zayn acts more like a stereotypical Jew than most Jewish.
But he's not Jewish.
I know he's not, but he acts the stereotype of it more. Yeah. But even with Sami, people would have been on Sami. Basically, I mean, he's basically Larry David most weeks before the heel turn. I think we would have been on board with that completely.
A Muslim?
I know the French Canadian Muslim of Syrian descent
community.
Hey, but no, I think with Jinder though, they really went out of their way to make him not cool. Like I mean, honestly, this sounds like a weird thing to say. I don't think they actually talked to any other person of Indian descent to get some ideas about this. I feel like this was Vince's idea of what he should be doing.
I'm sure he thinks you could just look, and a lot of it had to do with Jinder's look too. They're not going to put the WWE Championship on Samir Singh to expand in India. So, and speaking of which, by the way, Samir Singh rolled his ankle after that angle and was limping to the back. So I don't know if he's injured or he just tweaked it. So we'll keep an eye out on that. But I think they thought they found the right person. They might have. You just got to give it time and make it happen more organic.
Yeah. And Elway-ish is pointing out that Goldberg, I'll tell you, my dad's a rabbi. Every time wrestling comes up in anyone that I ever talked to in his congregation, they bring up Goldberg. Goldberg is the most famous Jewish athlete of all time.
Yeah. I mean, if you find the right personality, and Goldberg's a perfect example, Conor McGregor is a perfect example, George St. Pierre, the great Khali was huge in India, whereas, other Indian wrestlers, haven't been. You just got to get the right one, see who gets over, and once you see they're getting over, go with it.
Yeah,
it seems like they're trying to do something with Jeet Rama though in NXT.
Yeah, well, again, we'll have to see. Kishan Raftar and Jeet Rama, they've had them win matches in India on the WWE live events, but again, you just never know until you see them how they're getting over with the crowd.
Yeah. So they did, again, last night talk about Goldberg going into the WWE Hall of Fame. And there was a promo. What was really lacking this week is we did see Daniel Bryan and Shane McMahon last night, but no Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. We did get a video package, and we got the backstage promo of AJ Styles referring to them as Cammy, talking about his 2-on-1 match with them at the Rumble. Assume next week we'll do some heavy lifting to further build that.
Well, that's one of the items that's kind of fallen by the wayside with all the stuff going on this week is Kevin Owens missed the live events this past weekend for an injury. He didn't work Monday's live event either. So it's not known if it's anything serious. I think if it was, they would have done an angle to change the match at the Royal Rumble. So hopefully he's just resting up and yeah, we'll see. But he was scheduled to be at this past weekend's live events and he wasn't.
Yeah. So we got the second match, Bobby Roode versus Mojo Rawley. This match was really balanced. I'll say that. I mean, Bobby Roode won, which is what I'm assuming everyone else was assuming, but they gave Mojo a lot of offense in this.
Crickets.
Yeah.
What do you think, Chris?
I think that Mojo, unfortunately, I think he's a failed project. I mean, like I said, he looks the part, but his gear and his music just doesn't do him justice. I mean, there's no way that I can buy into Mojo Rawley. And I was part of a Q&A last year. I covered it here at WrestleZone, actually, during WrestleMania weekend with Sting, Ric Flair, and JR. And I asked the question, just ask Sting and Flair, just, how important is it to just keep that baby face and heel kind of balance still? And Sting, both of them said, it's still very important to just have really good baby faces and really good heels. And Sting was talking about how if it wasn't for someone like Rick Rude being such a good heel, he wouldn't have been as good of a baby face as he is. And I think with WWE now, that art is lost in so many ways because, I'm looking at Bobby Roode, the Glorious, who has the fan support to an extent. But there's not a good heel in Mojo to kind of up his stock at all. I mean, there's the Mojo as a heel doesn't help Bobby Roode at all. And to Jinder's defense, I at least would give him that much of making a babyface look better, like he did with Xavier. But with Mojo, he's not increasing anyone's stock, and not even his own at this point.
Yeah, I just think Bobby Roode as a babyface just isn't working. He's just kind of it's just kind of there. He's way more effective as a heel. Mojo, I mean, I thought this match was more boring than the Jinder Xavier match. So
yeah,
it was there.
So Bobby won, then got attacked by the Singh brothers. Out came Jinder. That was also weird. Like Bobby was like, "Let's do it tonight." Jinder's like, "We'll do it at a time of my choosing." Like next week on SmackDown Live. Daniel Bryan came out, made the match for later in that evening, and we'll talk about that. That turned out.
And real quick, this was where the Singh brother got injured. Was after this angle.
There was more hype for the Mixed Match Challenge, and then they announced, oh my God, for the first time ever on SmackDown Live, a 6-woman tag match was going to be coming up. Never see that. We'll talk about that.
It's fresh.
Yeah. Oh, man. I'll talk about that in a second. But first, I want to give some love to the sponsor of this episode, which is SeatGeek. Oh, my God. I love SeatGeek. You've heard us talk about this. Roger's used it. I've used it. Chris, have you used SeatGeek before?
I have not.
Man.
Not yet, but I may after I hear your pitch, Glenn. Let me hear it.
Well, let me tell you, buying tickets to sports and concerts, to wrestling, oh my God, can it be complicated and confusing, but there's a better way to buy, and that's with SeatGeek. It's the smartest, easiest way to get tickets to every type of live event, whether you're searching for a last-minute deal, planning a night out, or need to find the perfect gift, or if you're like me and you just obsess over where you're going to sit and want to know exactly where your seats are going to be, SeatGeek is going to help you find the best seats at the best prices, fully guaranteed. There's nothing quite like seeing your favorite team, musician, or wrestler in person, and SeatGeek is going to get you closer to the action for a great value. I've got the SeatGeek app on my phone. You've heard me talk about it before. I used it to buy Hamilton tickets, used it to buy upcoming WWE tickets to see them in Sacramento, and I love that I could be anywhere, and with just a few taps, I can instantly find seats. I can see exactly where I'm sitting, see what kind of value I'm getting. Raj used it for Lady Gaga and other events.
And the Broncos.
And the Broncos.
I throw that there for a Broncos game.
He's very worldly, diverse tastes.
And we're trying to figure out our WrestleMania plans if we're going to actually stay for the event this year. So I am going to be figuring that out this week. And if I go to get WrestleMania tickets, I'm going to use SeatGeek. So I'm just going to jump on there, and that's where I go now whenever I want to buy tickets.
And I'll tell you,
I used it the first time I've been. That's my place.
Well, and what I love about it is that it's designed to make your ticket buying experience easier than ever. It saves you time and money because it actually searches multiple ticket sites to compare prices and find amazing deals. And to get you the most bang for your buck, SeatGeek actually grades every ticket based on value to help you immediately identify the best seats that fit your budget. And every purchase is fully guaranteed. That's the most important part. So you can shop for tickets on SeatGeek with confidence. Make SeatGeek your go-to app for finding the best deals on every type of ticket, sports, concerts, wrestling, comedy, and theater. And best of all, our listeners can get $20 off their first SeatGeek purchase. Just download the SeatGeek app and enter the promo code INC today. That's promo code INC for $20 off your first SeatGeek purchase. So glad to have them as a sponsor of the Wrestling Inc. podcast. It's an amazing app. Seriously, folks, give it a try. You won't be disappointed, and save $20 using the promo code INC. We thank SeatGeek for sponsoring the show. So the 6-woman tag last night. Oh, man. What to do with this women's division? Chris, what do you think the answer is? Because I think we've talked about this a little more extensively before you started guesting. I get that this is a way to get every woman on SmackDown each week, but at a certain point, if they can't appear individually, you know, the average fan, I mean, I compared it before, you think they were the Spice Girls, like they always show up as a group. Do you think that they should take the Raw approach and maybe some women don't get on TV each week? Or how should they do this on SmackDown?
Somebody has to stand out from that bunch. It's gotten so bad that Charlotte is even kind of lost in the shuffle now. She's the champ.
Yeah.
You know, and that's sad. Somebody has to stand out. I mean, if they're doing, I'm a huge fan of Naomi. That's actually my favorite on this, my favorite women's wrestler. But I would push her away, and I would push Becky away from Charlotte. And if they want to do this Ruby Riott thing, have Liv Morgan and Sarah Logan kind of be, you know, the kind of people who would help her as a heel and just kind of, you know, help her win and you know, in very dastardly ways, and something to make them stand out as legitimate heels. Like, other than kind of snobby promos that we kind of see with Ruby Riott, there's nothing, especially over the past few weeks. They attacked people when they first came, but over the past few weeks, other than competing in matches, there's nothing that really makes the Riott Squad stand out as like heels that people just want to hate. Which I say again, those good heels make good baby faces, and there's not those type of heels in the women's division, specifically with the Riott Squad, that can elevate any baby face right now, and we see that every week.
Yeah, I think there's no storytelling either in this. I mean, if you look at those backstage videos that Charlotte and Becky post on Instagram, doing doing these things that at least show their camaraderie, I think it makes a case for these constant team ups, but it's so two-dimensional when it's just like, well, these are all the good guys, or these are all the, you know, the face girls, and these are all the heel girls, and they're just duking it out week after week. Sometimes 1-on-1 with the other two in the corner, sometimes 3-on-3, sometimes 2-on-2 with the other one standing in the corner. There's just no story. There's nothing there aside from the wrestling, which is solid. I think they're all capable in the ring at varying levels. I mean, obviously, some are better than others, but it's really just leaving it to their look to tell a story.
Yeah, like, is even Charlotte and Alexa Bliss, neither of them have title matches as of now, do they? For the Rumble?
I don't believe so. Raj, have we missed something? Is there a title match for the Rumble?
No, not yet. Nothing's been announced yet.
Yeah.
So for this big announcement of the Women's Royal Rumble, first ever, there's a chance that both the women's champions will not even be on the Rumble card. I don't understand.
There's a chance, but I'm sure they will be. But yeah, I agree. It's kind of ridiculous.
Who will they face? Because Asuka's in the Rumble. I mean, Asuka beat Alexa, but Asuka is in the Rumble, so there's no really, there's no real big contender for her. And then as far as Charlotte's concerned, you have the Riott Squad, and they're in the Rumble. So I mean, who would they face at this point? Unless they would kind of, do double duty, compete in the championship match and then at the Rumble at the same time, kind of like what Roman Reigns did last week. I mean, Roman Reigns did last year, I believe he did that.
Yeah, they've done that before. Yeah. The women are just so badly booked on SmackDown, just the weekly multi-person. You know, you talk about people trying to stand out. Charlotte was standing out when she was by herself. And now when you're just clump everyone together, you take away that opportunity to stand out. And with these scripted promos that they're given and just always they're all together, this feud has no purpose. It doesn't matter who wins or loses every week. It's just, you know, the right squad got to win this week, so you know the other side will get a win next week. It's
probably what happened.
Someone King Rail is making a comment about how they need tag belts for the women, and that might not be a bad idea. I hate adding new titles, but if right now the solution to how you book the women is that you just have to constantly put them all in the same segment, then maybe having tag titles, at least you can get more women on. And you can have a separate feud and then have more singles feuds for the top belt. So, I don't know, 2 more sets of titles, like having a Raw women's tag title and a SmackDown women's tag title.
That'll be
overkill, but
yeah,
it's not better than what they have now at the same time.
Well, I think that goes in tandem with your other complaint about SmackDown. I think SmackDown should be the show of shorter matches. Be more economic with your 2 hours. Jam pack it full of stuff. You know, tell your stories, but don't do these super long matches that take up a quarter of the show.
Yeah, how many matches did we have last night? We had the 3 U.S. title matches and the women's match. So was it?
Yeah, 4.
Just 4 the whole show?
Yeah.
You could easily fit a couple, you know, break up that multi-person, do 2 women's matches and fit another match and have these, you know, have all these matches go one segment because no one really cared about any of them.
Yeah. So we did get the United States title tournament finals last night. That was the main event. Bobby Roode versus Jinder Mahal. Jinder got to wrestle twice in one night. Bobby Roode won the title. And this is where we're at. Bobby Roode is a face, likely facing a returning Dolph Ziggler, probably set up next week for the Rumble. But yeah, a lot of lengthy matches. That last match went, 2 or 3 segments? I mean, I guess a championship match, but feel a little like overkill.
Yeah. I mean, people weren't into it. I mean, am I wrong? Was the crowd reaction hot? Because I know I was kind of fading in and out during this match. You know, like checking my phone, checking my email. It's just could not pay attention.
Yeah. I just. There was not much for the fans to really get behind. You know, it was just kind of there's not strong enough characters right now on SmackDown for people to just kind of rally behind and really cheer for someone. I mean, Bobby Roode. I mean, we've all said that Bobby Roode's in need of a character enhancement. If he does turn heel, I would wait till after Mania. Because I think the whole glorious entrance of get some huge babyface pops at WrestleMania. So I would do it like right after WrestleMania. But other than that, I mean, there's not, other than Mahal being a heel and, you know, no one really cheering for Mahal. There wasn't really anything to really stand behind this week on SmackDown.
I mean, we forgot to talk about AJ Styles promo, but that was
the less said about that, the better.
I mean, he's the WWE champion, you know, and they're just making him cold right now. And
they've done that before, though. They've given him terrible material that he delivers with absolute conviction, and it's hard to watch because he commits to it. He's so certain. But that thing last night, Kevin and Sammy, I'm gonna call him Cammy. You know, like that whole thing. Just and we did skip over it. The Usos got so what was it? So the Usos were talking about the 2 of 3 falls match. They got attacked from behind by Gable and Benjamin, setting up that match for the Royal Rumble. But I'll tell you, man, like let's talk about what was lacking last night. So we got no Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, which is some huge personality. We did get Daniel Bryan, and we got a little of that, you know, when he set the match up for the night. Fashion Files, we got the tease for the website, which means that we got no Rusev and Aiden English, no Tyler Breeze and Fandango, not even the Ascension aside from that 30-second video package. And the Usos promo was limited last night before the attack. So I feel like in terms of personalities, a lot was lacking last night.
Yeah, and this feud with AJ and Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn just feels mid card. The whole co-champions, deal and everything it just seems so. It's not a WrestleMania headlining type of deal, or
well, it won't last till Mania. I think it'll.
No, I know, but you know what I mean. Like, it's bringing him down.
Yeah,
but I hope one-on-one with Kevin Owens, even if it was one-on-one with Sami Zayn, and with the other in their corners, but I just think this thing's kind of bringing AJ down. I feel like AJ's cooled off a lot.
The co-champions thing, I think, would reinvigorate SmackDown for at least a month.
God, I think that would just bury the title as a comical belt.
Yeah, I think with Raw, I think we see such a big distinction because the Universal Champion isn't seen every week. I think usually throughout the past few decades, we think of the mid-card championship being the workhorse title, right? The Intercontinental title, being heavily defended, being heavily, showcased, while the world champ kind of comes in and out and not appears or competes every week. Somehow, I don't think they're going to do this with the WWE Championship, but somehow if we kind of distinguish the world champ is not kind of being oversaturated in our, to the television set. I think, you get to the point where you States Championship, kind of like the workhorse title, and you kind of don't blur the WWE Championship in with the US title, because there's nothing that's really making the WWE Championship stand out right now.
Yeah, I feel like you need someone. I love AJ. I think he's great, but you need to have him feud with someone for that belt that people care about. You need to have more star power at the top, and you just don't have that right now.
Yeah. I don't know. SmackDown, I think, is in trouble, though, if they just keep going around and around the way they have. If Sami and Kevin don't win, I think it's going to be boring. I think that nothing is going to happen of interest on SmackDown between now and Mania, because it's just going to be the same pattern again and again.
Yeah.
Well, if Nakamura wins the Rumble, I think that there'll be some type of intrigue. But if it was up to me, if the WWE calls me now and say, "Hey, I need help, give me one creative decision," I would move Finn over and have him in the club be the top heels on SmackDown right now.
Yeah,
I think that'd be good.
I think Finn, Seth, Jeff Hardy, any of those guys who really should be in the top, main event level, and Jeff Hardy when he comes back, all could benefit from that move.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's just something to switch it up. Need something to switch it up at this point, because it's getting really, really repetitive.
But that being said, SmackDown viewership numbers have been up.
Yeah.
So,
do you think it's the time of year though? I mean,
no, because it was going up in December, which is usually when things usually start going up in January, but they were starting to rise in December. And I think part of that had to do with the Daniel Bryan, Shane McMahon storyline.
Yeah.
Right.
What do you think the Olympics impact will be, the Winter Olympics, when they start next month?
It's usually the same as football, like around 10%.
Yeah. My worry about Nakamura winning the Rumble and going on to challenge AJ has nothing to do with the match. It comes to what they're going to do to build that, and the fact that Vince McMahon is going to oversee and have a say in all of the promos and the angle that they use to build that.
I just don't see Nakamura winning. Again, the Fastlane, they have a video promo for Fastlane. They got the Nakamura in that 5-way with AJ and Orton, Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens. I don't see it.
Yeah, maybe Cena's winning the Rumble.
I don't see that either, because what would he do? Give away the title shot to face Undertaker?
Well, who is it then? I mean, we're talking about, so if it's not Dolph and it's not Nakamura, and it's certainly not Rusev, who is it that's going to face the SmackDown champion? I mean, I guess it could be Reigns taking on Lesnar, but does Reigns need that? I feel like Roman Reigns, the way they book him, whether you like it or not, Roman Reigns could just say, "I want to face Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania," and in storyline, no one would bat an eye. People go like, "Okay, that makes sense."
Well, they could have Finn win and as a Raw superstar and defect over the SmackDown and feud with AJ.
Yeah.
That would be pretty cool, actually.
Yeah.
Saying he wants, you expect him to say he wants Lesnar, but then he says he wants AJ.
Yeah, or even show up. Like he wins the Rumble and people are thinking, Finn and Lesnar, this was supposed to be at Royal Rumble, so-and-so. And all of a sudden AJ cuts a promo and Finn in the club just attacks him. And he kind of, sets his sights on the WWE Championship.
Yeah, that'd be pretty awesome. I think that would be a great idea.
I know, Raj, you were reading off the list of winners before. I mean, during the last brand split, yeah, I mean, it's still top guys. I mean, Edge, Alberto Del Rio, Rey Mysterio, Chris Benoit, Batista. Yeah, there is a certain pedigree and level that I think would make sense, but who knows?
They usually have to have faith in you to give you that win, to handle being at the top.
Yeah. And it's not going to be Kevin Owens or Sami Zayn because they've got a match that night. Because I can see them. Then they'll enter the Rumble and they'll co-win the Rumble together. It'll be the two of them, and they'll challenge again for the co-championship at WrestleMania.
Hey, Rock and Big Show.
Yeah.
2000.
Yeah. So I don't see that happening either, but you never know.
Yeah. So let's talk quickly about the Mixed Match Challenge. Live viewership peaked out at 136,000 people on Facebook Live last night. I was saying before the show, I've seen like anchors from MSNBC and various journalists and celebs get more than 136,000 people watching them live on Facebook. But Raj, you're saying the views have gone up to over 1 million now?
Yeah, it's 1.2 that have watched it. I'm sure that counts, partial views, people just going to the end. We got to remember that this was only shown for US people in the US. Right. So, and it's an experiment. We'll see. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what kind of numbers Facebook was expecting. But, obviously 136,000 doesn't sound like very many.
That's like less than people that watch Impact live.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, I guess not a lot less. But,
yes, but still less.
But it's less, yeah. But yeah, by the end, 1.2, I don't know if they're happy with that. Like people watched it later. But as far as the fact that people aren't really trying to watch it streaming live, I mean, we've talked about it on the show before. Like sports streaming live hasn't been that hot, and a lot of
legal sports streaming live hasn't been that hot.
Yeah. But where I don't know why if a sport is streaming live legally and anyone can access it, you wouldn't do that as opposed to finding an illegal stream.
Depends on what it is. I wasn't going to pay $60 to watch CM Punk get his ass kicked.
Well, we don't. Yeah. None of us illegally stream.
Right, Glenn?
I don't, but yeah, I mean, where you have concrete numbers, it's just not quite there yet. But so we'll see. Are these the kind of numbers that would start a bidding war with Facebook and the USA Network?
Well, if you look at it, okay, so let's go back to Netflix. Netflix's first original show was called Lilyhammer. It starred like Steve Van Zandt from Bruce Springsteen's band. That was the first Netflix show. You didn't hear a lot about it, but it paved the way for people to get the idea of them using Netflix to watch an original series streaming. And I'm sure those numbers were tiny, but it paved the way for House of Cards and Orange is the New Black and all the major Netflix shows that now they made them into a powerhouse. So 136,000, it's not great, but for Facebook Watch, a platform that most people probably weren't aware until last night even existed, it is a start. Right.
But for WWE, would they want to even consider jumping to Facebook Watch, where, I mean, let's face it, they did a lot of promo for this show. There was nothing remotely interesting in it for me.
It was like a house show match. It was fun.
But you see house show matches all day. You just watch 2 hours of
actually, that match was more interesting than anything on SmackDown last night.
It was, but ultimately it's just mixed tag matches and that's it. And is that enough to get people really excited? I don't know, but yeah, I just think I just don't think that we're going to be seeing Raw and SmackDown move to Facebook Watch. I'll just put it that way.
No way. No.
Depends on the platform, though. If they get some other hot series on there, and they are investing in series a year from now. I mean, look, tech moves very fast. And in 6 months, it could be a completely different ballgame.
There's a lot to lose by moving to something that's not hot yet.
Absolutely. And you're seeing it. I mean, I was seeing on Twitter last night, super fans saying, I don't have a Facebook account. Can't watch this. People saying, how in the hell do I watch this? I do have a Facebook account, but I have no clue what Facebook Watch is or how I get there. They did one video, I think I saw on the network, about how to access.
They had a couple YouTube videos on how to get there. But yeah, they didn't explain it that well.
But had this been on YouTube Live last night, this would have done 1 million views live easily, I think, because everybody knows how to watch YouTube.
I don't know. I still don't think so.
You don't think so?
No, I don't think live. I don't think it would have done that.
What are the pre-show numbers on YouTube? What do those do?
Those are in the thousands, tens of thousands, I think. Maybe peaking at a couple, maybe 100,000.
I just think it's more accessible as a video platform. But we'll see. Hey, we got, 11 weeks to go in this mixed match challenge.
Yeah.
And by the way, clarity. So when they announced this originally, they talked about doing some VR element. Actually, it was at the Television Critics Association that there was some clarity on that it looks like VR is not going to be for this, but they're working with a company to produce like 12 VR experiences this year. Have you guys seen that news?
Yeah, there. Yeah. I mean, we had there was a press release about them doing the stuff with VR that's on the site somewhere.
Yeah. So for all you VR fans out there, it's coming.
Yeah.
You invested wisely in all that gear. Man. Okay. So let's talk, let's end on a real high note here. And that's the Impact stars to the WWE and these new talent acquisitions.
Well, they're not acquisitions yet.
Well, the ones that they announced. I mean, Ricochet.
Okay. Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ricochet officially signed, War Machine, and Candice LeRae. So those are the big names. There's a bunch of other people reporting to the Performance Center this week. The first Kuwaiti wrestlers reporting this week. There's a bunch of others. So Serena Deeb is there at the Performance Center. So yeah, it's a big week.
The baseball player too, right?
Yeah. Yeah, the guy that the $1 million arm was based off of, he's there.
It's good. I mean, NXT, I think, could use a shot in the arm. I think the main roster could use a shot in the arm right now.
Definitely. I mean, Ricochet, War Machine, and Candice LeRae, they're all ready to go. I mean, they could start appearing on NXT right away. A lot of these other signees are pretty new and very green, so we won't be seeing them for a while. Yet,
Tessa Blanchard last night posted she's doing the Cody Rhodes Young Bucks event in September.
Yep.
So that settles that speculation if she's going where Ricochet goes.
Yeah, we reported on that a month ago that she's taking indie bookings all throughout 2018. So
what do you think the deal is there? I mean, she's got the legacy. She's done a lot of work in NXT. She was in the Mae Young Classic.
I have no idea. I mean, she seemed like she'd be a no-brainer.
She carries herself like a star. She's got that it factor much more than some of the women on the roster. And yet, yeah, independent for the foreseeable future.
Yeah.
So there you have it. Chris, who are you most excited about of these new signings?
I think I like all of them really. I've had Ricochet and Hanson from War Machine on my show before, and conversed with them as far as just the move, and I'm big fans of War Machine. Really, I think War Machine probably would have the most success out of the new signees. I think with Ricochet, fantastic, one of the best out there, hands down. I just think WWE doesn't see. I don't think WWE will use him to his potential that other people see him in the indies. I think that he'll kind of be relevant. I mean, we saw that with Neville when he was Pac. He was just incredible. And I think now, he had some issues with his status. I mean, with his kind of NXT run. I mean, not NXT, he was doing well in NXT, but his 205 Live run. And I think that they'll put Ricochet in 205 Live, which isn't necessarily a substantial, a positive for him. I think he's a little too small to be incredibly successful in the heavyweight division. There's exceptions to that rule, i.e. Rey Mysterio. But I just, unfortunately, I don't see too much success from a main event level for him. With War Machine, I do see some success with them as far as the tag team division. I think they'll do fairly well, at least, hopefully. I think they have the potential to do quite well.
Yeah, I think the size thing, because I think Ricochet is awesome, but that size thing is just proven over and over. There are really hardly any exceptions with people under 200 pounds that really get that strong push. And he's a little bigger than Finn Balor, and Finn they did push him for a few weeks as a top guy, but the size always limits him in the end. And 205 Live is just it's just a kiss of death. It does nothing for anyone. What I'd like to see personally is I'd like to see keep the giants on Raw, the big 240 pound plus guys, and keep the guys that could be real players that are not getting put into that mix on SmackDown. You have these two brands, make them really really differentiate them, especially if they're big name talents where the only thing that's getting their way is the size. And then I think you could have a real contrast, a real choice, and two real different products, as opposed to SmackDown just being kind of a more boring version of Raw right now, shorter.
Yeah, I call it Raw Light.
Yeah, just with fewer stars and shorter. The shorter thing helps it a lot, but
there's no big distinction between the two like it used to be.
Right.
Yeah, we shall see. Raw 25 coming up Monday.
Cool, man.
Chris, who are you most excited for?
It's so funny. I'm such a nostalgia guy when it comes to wrestling. I'm actually looking forward to this more than the Rumble.
Really?
Yeah, I am. I just want to see the old faces. I just I'm sure it'll be in a very trivial, fashion that we'll see them most likely backstage. But there's DX. I'm interested in how they'll use DX. I think it'll probably be in the fashion of burying the Revival. I think so. I think it'll either be DX, APA, or the New Age Outlaws that'll just bury the Revival come Monday. Interested to see where they're going to place Jericho at on this show. And I definitely think I think it's quite obvious that Undertaker's appearance is going to be the starting point of the road to WrestleMania.
Yeah, so people are asking about The Rock. I mean, it could be a surprise thing. I doubt it. I don't think he's going to be there.
His schedule.
Yeah, his schedule. He's filming Ballers. I mean, it's not like he could. I mean, with his schedule, it's tough to take time off. And you would just think if he was there, they would advertise the hell out of it, like they have been with Steve Austin. But I could easily see him doing something by video, like they did for SmackDown. I forgot what anniversary it was that they did.
900, I think it was.
Maybe, yeah,
something like that.
So, Hulk Hogan said he won't be there. Yeah, that's right.
Is he at like Wizard World or something in Arizona that day? Like Hogan's got an appearance scheduled.
Oh, maybe. I didn't check that. I just know that Hogan has said he's not going to be there. So yeah, I mean, Steve Austin is the big name, and the Undertaker will actually have storyline implications. So that'll be the big one.
Maybe too, in a recent interview, he said he's trying to move some things around on his schedule. So he said if he's not there in person, he'll be there in spirit.
But guys like Foley, even Ric Flair, a lot of these people who were big stars, you just got to think with all the stuff that they got, all the names that they got, they're just not going to do much with them anyway. So
yeah,
right.
If Foley's there, he'll probably be a 2-second cameo with a bunch of other people where he gets in a catchphrase.
I could see him back.
Sorry. What did y'all think of the Raw 25, the countdown?
Love that the pipe bomb was number 2 and that they included it.
Number 2.
What was number 1? I didn't watch it.
Oh, jeez.
The beer truck, Austin's beer truck.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see that. That's definitely one of the most memorable.
Number 3 was the Yes Movement.
Really? That high?
The Occupy Raw.
It was cool. It was a cool visual.
I think Jericho's debut was 4.
On the Occupy Raw thing, was there a backstage story and how they coordinated that? How that all?
There was. It's you'd have to search for it. You search for it on the site, and I remember like some fans who were. You got to double check. It's been a while.
Logistically, I think that's one of the most impressive things that they've ever pulled off, just in terms of everything that could have gone wrong for that. But yeah, pipe bomb. What was funny about it was in every other segment they had the superstar involved, or most of the other segments they had the superstar involved talking about it after. And after the pipe bomb, it was Rosenberg and Corey Graves that were just kind of like, yeah, that happened. Okay.
Yeah.
But they edited it and they
cool
left in the digs. I mean, they left in the worst stuff against the McMahons. I'm sorry, Chris. What were you gonna say?
Yeah. I think it was pretty cool though. I think WWE kind of surprised me a bit by actually showing as much as they did with the pipe bomb. They showed quite a bit, and they didn't edit out, things that kind of favor them and make them look good. I think, I applauded the WWE for their edit of that one.
Yeah,
man, I didn't watch that in like 2 years, and just seeing that again. I mean, even if you look at the stuff Owens was doing and the things that they've had happen on TV, I mean, Owens bashing on the McMahons has still been like 5 steps removed from that. I think he called Shane like an egomaniac. Like that's like the worst thing he said about the McMahons. But yeah, I mean, CM Punk, man, like nothing has touched that.
I'm sure. Where was Austin giving Vince the stunner for the first time?
I tuned in when Edge's retirement speech, which I think was like 18.
Okay.
Or something like that. That was after the match.
Austin McMahon would have been near the top 5.
Well, they had the hospital one was in the top 10.
Yeah, but the one where he stunnered Vince, that kind of set the whole thing in motion. That was considered a huge deal at the time. And then his angle with Mike Tyson. I'd actually probably put his angle with Mike Tyson almost at the top, if not number 1.
I think that
really started the WWE gaining momentum.
And by the way, that's another thing last night. So people were pointing it on Twitter. Like you have the Mixed Match Challenge starting on Facebook immediately after. And at the same time on USA, they're going immediately into Raw's top 25 moments. With very little promo or even explanation that was going to be happening. I could see where that probably confused people.
Wait, not last night.
Yeah, on SmackDown. After SmackDown, they showed this Raw 25 moments on USA. It started immediately after SmackDown last night.
Yeah, it did.
It didn't air then because they had an episode of Unfiltered on the WWE network after SmackDown.
No, not on the network. On the USA network.
Oh, they had it on USA?
Yeah, that's why I watched it after Mixed Match. I turned back to DirecTV Now, and USA was showing that.
Wow,
so that's what I'm saying. So if you're watching SmackDown and then you see the Then Now Forever come up immediately, my first thought was like, oh, they're showing the Mixed Match Challenge on USA simulcast. But no, it was the 25 moments went opposite that.
I totally missed that.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah,
that's a dumb move. Well, I'm sure it's not WWE's call, but
yeah, I don't know. Doesn't USA have some like more episodes of Chris We Knows Best or Modern Family or SVU or something else they could put on?
Or I'll tell you what, how about Walker, Texas Ranger?
Yeah.
Every time I used to be so excited that came off, because it was right before Raw.
Yeah. Colton C noting that the Lita Edge sex show didn't make the top 25. That brought in the PG era.
Yeah,
it was after that they really started toning everything down.
Yeah,
and Sean Mooney's not. He said that he can't make Raw 25 because of his schedule, but he was all over the Greatest Moments show. I found that really funny.
Yeah, he has another job too, so
yeah.
What's weird though is it's a Monday night, like concerts, comedy. Nothing happens on Monday nights. Literally, it's the one night.
Well, now that football's done.
Yeah, but you know what I'm saying? Like for these legends, Monday night is the night where nothing is going on. It's the safest night to play.
A lot of these legends have jobs now.
Yeah,
they're not.
Don might have a graveyard shift somewhere. You never know.
I'm talking to one right now who is iffy about making it because of her job. So.
Oh. Intriguing. When will that interview be on the site?
Soon.
Okay, there we go.
Still finalizing the date, but
yeah, well, maybe it's someone that will need to be available the following Sunday for the Rumble.
It is.
Yeah. Man, I'm looking forward to that. I think the Women's Rumble is going to be very interesting just because it's the first. And to what we were talking about earlier, I could see them using some weird logic to put both Alexa and Charlotte in that just because it's historic. It's such a moment. And they really need to make 30. And I don't know, even with the legends, man, and the NXT, I don't know. It's going to be interesting.
Well, they would have to have it. They would have to have it before. I mean, they would have to have it after the championship matches, because it would be kind of weird if like Asuka, loses to if Asuka gets eliminated from the Rumble and then faces Alexa Bliss later on that night for the title. They would have to have it. They would have to line it up right.
Is that happening? They haven't announced that yet. But it could happen. We'll see. 7 matches announced, but 2 of them are hour-long matches, or darn near an hour long. 6-hour pay-per-view. Well, 4-hour pay-per-view, 2-hour pre-show. Sunday we'll be here to cover it immediately afterwards, coming up week after next. And Raj, there's going to be an NXT takeover one a week from Saturday as well, correct?
Yeah. We'll be doing one. Myself, Chris, and Justin LaBar will be doing one after takeover. So make sure to join us for that.
Yeah, but before that, Raw 25 coming up Monday. Myself, Raj, Mr. Matt Morgan, and maybe Justin LaBar FaceTiming in from.
Right. He'll be live. He'll be live at the Manhattan Center.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll have lots of information about what we don't see on camera there. So, Chris, before we take this home here, anything you want to plug?
Pancakes and Power Slam show, episode 303 was last night. We have a wrestling talent, wrestler interview every week. Last night we had Ken Anderson.
Nice.
Anderson.
And Raj, what's coming up on the site this week that you can talk about right now?
We posted our Jimmy Jacobs interview yesterday. We've got our interview highlights with Kevin Kelly coming up, and a lot more.
Cool, guys. Well, we'll be back here Monday to talk about Raw. I'm Glenn Rubenstein. You can follow me on Twitter at Glenn Rubenstein. And we'll see you back here next time on the Wrestling Inc. podcast. Take care.